Hello and welcome to Kimboshi Radio here on the Kimboshi Sumo channel. I am Rick, but joining me today after a long hiatus yet again is Nick. Nick, how are you doing today?
I am doing great.
Great, perhaps because finally our beloved Kirishima has not let us down and has strung 3 tournaments together, including a Yusho to return to Ozeki.
I'm going to be honest with you, that made me so happy. He's been a good streak, and I'm very excited for him.
Well, and we talked about, I did a little instant reaction 15-minute podcast last week, but so I want to rehash some of those here in deeper depth, but I talked about, man, I think I dark horse picked him over the last year and a half 4 times after one of his 11-win tournaments, and he almost always either went 6-9 or 8-7, it was single digits after that. So this is huge. He needed 11 wins. I did not think he was going to win this Yusho until the tournament actually started, but pre-tournament, pre-basho, I was just he's got 2 11s in a row. I think he can do this. I think he will get 11. I think he'll go to Ozeki. But my buddy Sean was like, I don't know, man. One of those tournaments, one of those 11s was at Maegashira 2. Maybe they hold him back. I'm like, I don't think so because he was blah, 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 blah. There's all sorts of conversation. And then none of it mattered because he got a Yusho. At that point, 34 wins in a Yusho, there's no question. That's grounds for a new Ozeki promotion, let alone an Ozeki repromotion, which I think that they are more prone to look for. So he's back? Question mark, Nick?
So it's so interesting because I was actually wondering if they'd be more strict or less strict on him because he'd been a fairly short-term Ozeki, which, to be honest with you, I'm not even in his position, and he's already got me stressed out again that this needs to stay consistent again.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, he was the first Mongolian to get Ozeki and not get Yokozuna. So there's still a chance. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, I remember those conversations. Yeah, exactly. Like you said, he's not the first Mongolian to miss out in general, but once a Mongolian got to Ozeki, they almost always made it to Yokozuna. I think you're right about that stat. Yes.
And I'm totally fine. It's whatever. If he doesn't get there, that's wonderful. But I'm but what happens if he were to get demoted again? I'm does he just retire at that point?
Dude, I don't know. Well,
I don't know. Let you do too?
Yeah. Well, that'd be crazy. Dude, great questions. I don't know. What would you want him to do? His sumo is so good. I don't want him to go anywhere. At least.
I think I'd be really torn, honestly, because it's he could compete for a long time,
right?
Minus occasional injury, whatever. But
yeah,
if he were about to be demoted, it's I wonder if it would be better if you would retire and then they just pretended it was not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, dude, I don't know. And especially because last time it was kind of a wishy-washy weird thing. His stable master retired, so he was in Kakuryu's stable now. He also had an injury. So like you're saying, I don't think anybody wanted him to retire when he lost Ozeki the first time, especially because he still is only 29. He'll turn 30 in 3 weeks or something like that in April. So the first time, but I do see what you're saying. I think, correct me if I'm wrong though, about this idea that now for this Ozeki run, he will be on the other side of 30. His last Ozeki run lasted a calendar year. It did last 6 bashos. And the beginning of it was, of course, very promising, but the end obviously is where the stable switchery and the injuries came in, and that was frustrating for all of us, of course. But
yeah, and I remember reading that. Probably, I think it was in the 90s. It was or prior to the 2000s. I can't remember for sure, but it was essentially if an Ozeki got demoted and was going to lead the Sanyaku, they just retired immediately.
I mean, that's Takakeisho.
But I'm actually kind of glad for some of these people don't, because otherwise he would have left back in January. It looks like of 25, and then you wouldn't get this massive comeback.
And look how many quality tournaments in there. I talked about correctly the frustrations I had with the back and forth of the single digits, but nevertheless, September of 2024 was a 12-win tournament for him. January of 2025 was 11 wins in a Kanto show. May of 2025 was 11 in a Gino show, and then of course this run of 11, 11, 12. But those were really quality tournaments, especially in this era for him. So obviously, him leaving would not have been good. But now, on some level, we don't have to talk about that at all, especially because I do want one more big conversation piece that I want to get your opinion on. And if you're listening, email us at kimboshiproduction@gmail.com if you have thoughts on this too. Because, like, for the midway show, I had Larry and Sean on, and we did this little thing of like, okay, we have all these one-loss contenders. Who has the best chance of going 14-1? Because, like, we were talking about, hey, is this a down era? Are we in this changing of the guard where the old guard is still technically better than the new guard and maybe will be forever? Like, it was at the time when Kirishima, Takanosho, Takayasu were leading the tournament, right? And the young guys were kind of like floundering. But we all picked by a mile. We thought Hoshoryu had the best chance to go 14-1, but it was actually Kirishima who ran his record all the way up to 12-1. So take that. So I'm like, that's crazy. Now, Kirishima, we all gave the second best chance to get there. How are you going to pick against Hoshoryu in that scenario? But he reeled off 11 straight wins, which is wild, right? If we take what Goose from Sunday Morning Sumo Show talks about is divide the tournament into thirds. Don't divide the tournament, try to cut it in half around Nakabe, but like view it in thirds, right? A dominant performance is, can you win 5 in a row? Because can you have gone undefeated in one of those thirds? And he effectively did that twice in the middle, right? With 11 straight wins. But then you and I were talking before we turned the mics on about days 14 and 15 and the frustration there of losing to an absolutely floundering Aonishiki and losing to Kotosakura, who had a good tournament, but has been floundering for the last like year and a half. So that was really frustrating because I got to the point where I'm like, do this. Like, let's slam a hammer down Kirishima and pull off a 14-1. It's not a Zensho Yusho, but we can prove that this generation or this era of sumo still has dominant performances, even though we haven't seen those kind of dominant performances since the 2021 Terunofuji and Hakuho era. Like, it's been a long time. It's been half a decade since we've really seen that kind of stuff. So holy smokes. And then it fell apart anyway. And now we have another 12-win Yusho, which feels like deflating to me. How do you feel about
that? I honestly, I'm still looking at it fairly positively because he did have the Hoshoryu. He won Hoshoryu day 12, so he did have a Yokozuna win.
Yep.
And it's like, of course, if you're going to lose to anybody in this area, it's going to be the Ozekis and Yokozuna.
Sure.
And I mean, yeah, it's just, of course, Kotosakura was, at least was having a good time. It's like, of course they're going to win, whatever. But man, this was not the time.
I know, yeah, and you were even bringing up, you're like, didn't Kotosakura do this last tournament too? And I was like, kind of, but in reverse. He's been involved in the final narrative each of the last bashos. This time it was because in those final 2 matches, he beat Hoshoryu on day 14 to kind of cement him being out of that Yusho race, and then he beat Kirishima on day 15, so that even though Kirishima had already clinched on day 14, he like dragged that down from 13 to 12. But last basho, it was in the last 3 days, he lost to Onosato, and then lost to Hoshoryu, lost to Aonishiki in those final 3 days or whatever. So it's like he was 8-4 and then lost 3 straight. This time he was 8-5, but then won 2 straight. And it's hilarious how different that makes this feel, right? Going 8-7 in January, but 10-5 in March. Still, we want him to get 11, but yeah. So Kotosakura just sticking his nose in the business, but never in the way we want, which stick your nose in the business, my man, but do it because you're contending for the Yusho.
Not deciding basically the record of whoever wins and loses.
Exactly. What do you think for Kirishima now, though? So then if we're going to talk about that and him falling short of the 14-0, but having 11-11 and 12, like Ozeki's, I've talked to Goose about this, and I think you and I have talked about this before, but it's like Kachikoshi for an Ozeki should be 11 wins. Why? Because they need to win 33/3 and a Yusho in order to get to Ozeki. So that's saying that the JSA thinks an average consistent performance for an Ozeki should be 11 wins, right? So both our Ozeki fell short of that, but Kirishima has done that now he did 2 11s and now a 12 and got a Yusho. Can he keep this up? Will he be more of what we think the consummate Ozeki should be moving forward? Or are we going to see more realistically what we've seen for the last year and a half, which is he's going to get those 11s and he's going to pepper him in with a bunch of 8 and 7s?
I honestly would look at the last year and say that's probably what we're going to get, which is dominantly what you want.
Yeah, right.
Just with, I think there's going to be more sprinkled in, just occasionally like an 8-7 or maybe like a negative tournament every once in a while, which is fine. It's just different than what I think we saw before.
Yeah, historically, it's not what the deal was. Yeah, agreed. how about let's shift gears then. So, or here, I'll end it on a final note. We are both stoked to see Kirishima there and think him at Ozeki is good and think that this is good for the division. Do you agree with those statements?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited that he's back.
Yeah. And I hope that Ozeki does something mentally for him. Sean and I have talked about Hoshoryu's mental game where we think his skills are superior to almost every Rikishi on the Bonsuke, but somehow he will always like lose a match that you don't think he'll lose. But then let's talk about that, right? So if we're talking about 11 being this Ozeki number, it's really interesting to me that the two runner-ups in this tournament were not in contention on day 15. It was decided on day 14, which in some ways is a disappointment unless it's because of a Zensho Yusho or a truly dominant performance or something like that. But it was Hoshoryu and Kotoshoho. And you and I were talking about this a little bit last basho as well, right? Where, 10 and 5 looks different from a Maegashira 5 than it does from a Yokozuna. Well, so does 11 and 4, right? I got no qualms with an Ozeki going 11 and 4. But if I'm going to say 11 and 4 is an average performance for or for an Ozeki, then by definition, it has to be below average for a Yokozuna, right? So Hoshoryu going 11 and 4, but then comparing that to Kotoshoho, I'm ecstatic. I was like buzzing, hoping that Kotoshoho would get in there and be another upset contender, that he'd be there in that final day. And I kind of was like, well, let's just do this. This is who Kotoshoho was supposed to be when he turned pro before he had that terrible injury and fell all the way down and had to climb back up. That didn't work out either because Kotoshoho, in his case, it wasn't the last 3 days that really did it to him. It's the Shodai loss that really got him. But he lost to Hoshoryu and he lost to Atamifuji before beating Asakoryu on day 15 when Kotoshoho was already out of it. But like, how do you feel about those two guys? And I understand that this is primarily going to be a conversation about Hoshoryu, but what do you think about those 11 and 4s?
I feel like the same as you did, where for Kotoshoho, somebody like that, like you're like super excited, like wonderful. Hoshoryu, I'm like, 12 would have been more of what I was expecting.
Right.
It kind of, like you said, just really should have been closer to a play. I don't know, just a little bit more contentious.
Yeah.
It's just, I just have higher expectations, really, because Hoshoryu is so good.
And especially because, like, so that midway episode that Larry, Sean, and I did, we record those and talk only through day 7. So we don't actually do it on Nakabe, middle day or whatever. But immediately on Nakabe, he loses to Daisho. And this is not your 2021, 2024 Daisho. This is a different Daisho on the other side of his prime, unfortunately, I think, because of that calf injury.
This is a bit of a bummer Daisho.
So this is not the Daisho that I want knocking off my Yokozuna and doing what effectively looked like it knocked him out of the title race because this is where Kirishima was going on his insane run. And Hoshoryu couldn't. So like the losses he took, Hoshoryu losing to Kirishima, whatever. That one's weird because those guys know each other, I think, all the way going back to fighting Bulk as like elementary students in Mongolia before they both moved to Japan. Maybe not because Kirishima's a little older than him, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But like the Kirishima loss, whatever. We already talked about Kotozakura being a spoiler here, stealing the role of your beloved Abi, I guess. But yeah, otherwise, like the surprise loss to Fujinokawa, the Daisho loss was surprising. This is what I mean when we talk about like mentally what's going on because Hoshoryu's better than both of those guys. So why are you not fully locked in, or what is that little missing piece? Is Hoshoryu, because again, he received some criticism from the JSA, specifically the chairman, after this basho again for sort of disappointing as a Yokozuna, even though 11 is great as a Ozeki. So is Hoshoryu an Ozeki plus? Is he a Yokozuna minus? Or is he, you know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about that?
It's hard, and people are so hard on Hoshoryu that it's like, like my first thing is like to defend him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially his uncle. Jesus, that guy's rough on him.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard because, but he's also the most consistent because it's like, look at how Onosato is amazing and he dominates, but it's like, but now he's fighting injuries already.
I know. I don't know what's going on with this. We'll get Phil back on, but I just have to believe that this isn't just a dislocated shoulder, that perhaps some ligaments were torn or perhaps a rotator cuff was torn. I do not have any facts to back that up. But why is this happening? We'll get to that in a second, I guess. You go, though.
Yeah, and I think when I'm looking at the Yokozuna, I'm like, I'd almost rather have, like, this kinda steady, maybe, like, not quite hitting, like, the spectacular highs, but, like, he's there and he's holding it down. Versus, like, oh, he's injured, he's out for 2 tournament like
right.
A lot of them at his level.
Yep. I mean, I always like to tell people, like, I was really high last year on the fact that except for his 2 injury performances, Hoshoryu was absolutely insane in January because if we throw out the 2 injury performances, which I know is a big ask because you want them to be healthy and stuff like that, but, like, look at Hakuho, look at Terunofuji, whatever. January, 12 wins. May, 12 wins. September, 13 wins and shockingly didn't get the Yusho. November, 12 wins. So if, and I do not know I'll think about this more, and I'm going to have Goose on the podcast, and we're going to talk about the famous, Hishin Onosato quote about 12 wins is not a Yusho or whatever. However, if we're going to say Ozekis need a minimum of 11 wins, I think it's reasonable to say Yokozuna's therefore need to be, one argument would be Yokozuna's need to be better than Ozeki, so they need a minimum of 12 wins. Well, all last year, he got a minimum of 12 wins in every tournament he fully competed in. This year, that's not been the case with 10 and 11. But I just like, it depends on, well, what do you want from a Yokozuna? Do you want minimum 13? Do you want minimum 12? What do you actually think? But either way, he was better than what we're saying an Ozeki should be. So that's where I get in the thing of, well, is that an Ozeki plus, a Yokozuna, or a Yokozuna minus? Like, where does that fall in? I don't know. But it stinks because I think we both think his sumo was good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do personally lean probably it should be more towards 12, but...
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How about then let's pivot just a tiny bit and give Kotoshoho his due, because this matters that he was in this. And really, it's a conversation. It would have been more of a conversation, of course, if he had actually won this, but he still got a junior show here. But like, there's somewhat of a conversation here of who's the premier Sato-gataki wrestler right now if Kotoshoho can keep doing this stuff, right? Is it Kotozakura? Is it Kotoshoho? Obviously, his last year, other than one stellar highlight, was not good. So that's a factor. But how are you feeling about Kotoshoho, a guy who I still think rightfully pretty much iced out of our 2026 Yung-zeki sweepstakes conversation? I don't think he's making Ozeki is what I'm trying to say because he's starting from way too deep. But what do you think about Kotoshoho's performance?
I think this performance was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's good, 11. It's where you'd expect up high.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I do still think Kotozakura is think Kotozakura is the premier of their stable just because he's fighting at an entirely different level that I don't think Kotoshoho could.
No.
I don't think he could fight all those people every time.
I don't think so. I think it helps.
But he's good.
Yeah, Kotoshoho got to get wins against Oshoma, Ura, a Fusen victory over Onokatsu. Like, these are not necessarily the matches Kotozakura ever gets to see in his schedule on a consistent basis. But Kotoshoho does have some premier wins. He knocked off Takanosho when Takanosho was up there leading the tournament. He beat Oho, who we're really high on, even though we're going to get to this later, but I am not feeling very good about my pick for him in the Yung-zeki sweepstakes anymore. But he beat Aonishiki before Aonishiki was in a complete free fall. He beat Yoshinofuji, who is a lot of people's favorite to make Ozeki out of this crop and stuff like that. But yeah, I do think you're right. This is a great Maegashira performance. I don't even know if this is like the kind of performance that he could sustain in the top Joey. I know Maegashira 5 can be considered Joey Jean, but I like to consider it M1 through 3, and he was fighting at M5. But yeah, I'm with you on the Kotoshoho front. Even though very impressed, want to see him keep doing stuff like this. I just don't think that this 11-4 means he's at all in the conversation with Hoshoryu. And I think I agree with you that still Kotozakura, especially where he finished only one win behind Kotoshoho, I do not think this supplants him as the premier Sato-gataki guy necessarily.
I'd just like to see him do it twice before I get real hyped on him.
Yeah, which is what we were talking about with Kirishima. I'm like, okay, he now has done it 3 times, so no more questions. I don't need to sit here and be worried anymore. I do want to, you touched on it briefly before. Go again.
Oh, sorry. I think that is the difference too, is that Kirishima has done it multiple times, like you kind of expect it. Yep. Versus Kotoshoho, it's like, I like it, but it's like, let's see you do it a couple times.
Totally. And a guy who we have seen it do it again and again. I'm going to do this briefly because he pulled out of the tournament, so we don't have a ton to say. But Onosato opening with those losses, 3 straight, and then dropping out, which is fine if he's going to lose to two Maigashiras and a Shin Komusubi. Yeah, but like, I felt so different about Onosato a couple tournaments ago. And now this injury has really got me worried. How are you feeling about Onosato here, acknowledging that this is a lot of speculation?
Of course, yeah, and it is a lot of speculation, but it's like, it does make me nervous.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at his record, it's insane. And also, you're like, wait, what? Even like when it hit like 10, you're like, okay, that's fine. And then it hit this, I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, yeah. Like he obviously wasn't feeling good last basho. We know that. And then just going back, yeah, man, I don't know. It's fine. It's going to be fine eventually. I'm starting to question because he went to college, because he turned pro late. We actually have less years on the clock for him than like you would think, right? He has not been in the conversation as long as Hoshoryu, and yet they're virtually the same age, right? June 7th, 2000 is Onosato's birthday. May 22nd, 1999. So they are less than a year apart. They are both currently 26, but Hoshoryu is about to turn 27. But like, you know what I mean? Like they're in the mix with each other. Or wait, yeah, he's 26. No, he's not. Whatever, doesn't matter. They're in the conversation.
Close enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever. He's doing math. I'm not here for it. Comical. I'm not here when it doesn't work for me. But yeah, I hope that this bounces back. But at this point, I'm like, I I don't know. Maybe I'm rooting for him to sit out an entire basho. I don't know, but I don't want to watch this anymore. Give me more September 2025s. Give me more May 2025s. Whatever I have to do to get back there from Onosato is what I want, while acknowledging that he is now in his prime. He's not entering his prime, right? Like when we talk later about our Yung-zekis, those are guys who we get really optimistic because they hypothetically shouldn't be at their peak, but that 27-ish is where you should be in your peak in sumo because of how much weight they carry on those joints. But switching gears now, Aonishiki, a guy who hypothetically should not be in his peak at all yet, but I think it's interesting to see how many guys in recent memory are like waves getting broken on the rocks of a shoreline when the conversation turns to Yokozuna, right? So like Aonishiki now, all the momentum, two wounded Yokozunas, but it ends up being Kirishima who comes in through and gets it. And he not only had the first tournament where he scaled backwards, had a lower win total, it was his first non-winning record in sumo, period. He's never had a losing record, ever. And he went 7-8. So that is an enormous step backwards. But when we're talking about the guy, we're still talking about a guy who's 22 years old. So again, he has not even entered. And I think when we did the math for Yung-zeki and stuff like that, and peak Rikishi, we had that conversation with Phil. It's like 25 to 28 is when you should be at your peak. So he has not even entered his peak. So plenty of time, but are the alarm bells ringing, right? We know that in the English language fan base, and this is sports in general, this is not a critique of sumo fans, but very hyperbolic, ourselves included. It's just the way the conversation kind of goes. So we can work hard to temper that and stuff like that. And in this case, I'm going to temper it by saying, on one level, I think this means nothing for Aonishiki's career in general. But it does mean something in one fact, in that he has not kept this completely linear run and this record-setting pace. He is not going to make Yokozuna. He is not going to kind of be in the running for that record like with Hakuho for getting Yokozuna at such a young age. How do you feel about Aonishiki's performance first, and then we'll talk about his trajectory, Nick?
So it's interesting. Just to, again, this would be thrown out every time. The sumo stats is the most amazing thing in the world.
Yeah. Hey, Sumo Stats, if you listen to the show, which is like incredibly unlikely, but we would love to talk to you.
This website is just the most amazing thing in the world. He actually has I'm going to say this is kind of a fluke for him. Yeah. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
He's gone, like you've said, where he's like lost a couple. Mm-hmm. This is his first time going negative, and I'm really wondering what that does to your head.
Sure.
Like, I'm really hoping it's not like, oh, is it good? It's a good test, though. Like, you probably should go negative before you hit Yokozuna just to see Can you handle it? Is something crazy going to happen? Is he just going to bounce back and like it's no big deal?
Right.
Some type of probably difficulty in the road should happen.
Yes. Yep.
But I'm also looking, since he hit Megashira, has gotten either a Yusho, Jun Yusho, or special prize every time except for this one.
Yeah. This is a historical performance for him in several ways. Yes.
And I'm like, that's so interesting because Onosato too only has like 3 tournaments where he hasn't gotten a Yusho or a special prize. Mm-hmm. But I look at those ones totally different. Where this one, I'm like, this one, I think it's his big toe, right? That's injured.
I think so. I'll do more homework, but yeah, I think so. Well, yeah.
If not, we'll just pretend this part isn't happening. But I don't know. It's like I'm hoping it's just a temporary injury, but I'm gonna be so mad if it's another thing where it's like just this freak injury. It's like, oh, now your career's done. Right. When you were like riding so close to the sun.
Yeah. And that's a thing. Was he, when we talk about future trajectory, I don't think Yokozuna needs to be out of the conversation yet. So just like set that aside. But like, he was so close to the sun and it was burning too hot. And it was, though, kind of this idea of like capture your chance when you can, right? Because what's coming down the pipe behind you? Like if Hoshoryu and Onosato both get healthy, does that completely change the conversation for Aonishiki moving forward? Does he have a bunch of 13-2s where he loses to both Yokozunas and one of them goes 14-1? I don't know that that's going to happen. I'm just saying we don't know in the future. So those are things that could happen. Did he need to capture this opportunity when it was in front of him? Or, like, what do you think? Was he overclocking here, Nick? Like, in this run up, was he taking advantage of circumstances?
I think that was maybe part of it.
Yeah,
It's easier when you have somebody as dominant as Onosato, like just a huge obstacle just being removed.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm looking like he doesn't have a winning record against Onosato.
Right.
Hoshoryu he does, but it's like, but that's still a major issue. And it's going to play into, assuming everybody, like they all get healthy and everything's great.
Yeah.
It's going to play into, it's going to make it harder. Yep. But I do think it's like that also shows, it's like if he can keep doing what he was doing, it's like, you just need to, it shows that you came back and you were good to go.
Yep. And I'm with you too. Like, I want to see him tested. So on that hand, that's good. Also, he's freaking 22 years old. There's no question that he has more amazing sumo before us. It's just this interesting thing of, will Aonishiki be in the conversation? Oh, well, with Hoshoryu, I was talking about Ozeki plus versus Yokozuna minus. But at the end of the day, Hoshoryu has the Yokozuna. He got the belt, baby. So no one can ever take that away from him. Whereas Aonishiki, are we going to enter into the conversation of Ozeki plus, where he enters in with the likes of Takakeisho, with the likes of Goeido, with the likes of, was it Kita Naomi who never made Yokozuna, but was one of the greatest Ozekis of all time. I'm vamping. No, he made Yokozuna. There's another name that I can't think of right now, so whatever. I'll just move it on. But like, is he going to be one of the greatest Ozekis of all time or Yokozuna? At the end of the day, like we were talking to JJ a few episodes ago, and the idea of storylines in sumo and storylines on the clay. I don't even care. That's a great storyline. If we can be rooting for Aonishiki for years to come of the Yokozuna chase. The WWE, I am not a fan anymore, but like I got friends. We had Adam on the podcast a long time ago to talk about the interestingly intertwined history of pro wrestling and sumo through multiple different eras and multiple different storylines. But in this modern era, there are people who I know who still like pro wrestling and still watch it. And they said, oh, yeah, no, once Cody Rhodes got the belt, I stopped watching. Like, that was the big payoff for me. So it's interesting that as far as viewership, it could actually be better if Aonishiki's always chasing but doesn't get the belt. But I don't know what's going to happen. And I do know that at present, I still consider the guy easily a top 10 Rikishi that we have in sumo right now, probably top 5, right? Again, these questions are about health, right? Like, is a healthy Kotosakura our November of 2024 Kotosakura? Because that's totally different than the Kotosakura we're seeing. Is a plugged in, like, game face Oho better than what he's consistently showing? You know what I mean? So I don't know, but Aonishiki's superpower was the consistency. So whereas guys like Oho and Kotosakura are not showing, well, Kotoshoho too, can be great at peak but never show the consistency, all that stuff. I don't know. But in general, again, just like we did with the Kirishima conversation, to end it on a positive note, we're both positive on Aonishiki, right? Like, give me your positive spin for Aonishiki, Nick.
Oh, 100%. I do think he's going to bounce right back, and it's going to be great. I think he'll crush it and get it back. I think he'll get Yokozuna in maybe this year, if not early next year. Like, I think he'll get it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, you think even early? I love this. I love you saying this, and I want to watch this. And so this is interesting because I don't know what I think. I don't know if Yokozuna is now 5 years down the road for him. So I love that we have a slight divergence, but we're both at the same end point. But I cut you off. I'm rude. You go.
I would absolutely not be surprised if he does another like string of like 12 wins.
Yeah.
And can get a Yusho.
Gotcha. Yep. And then the question is, can he get 2 again? Right? Because that's what they want for Yokozuna. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm going with it.
Yeah.
I'm sticking on the positive.
I love it. And I think that's a great place to pivot to our final segment where, Nick, I want to return to our Yung-zeki sweepstakes. And in this case, let's play a little game.
Fall it apart fast.
Dude, it always does. That's okay. We do it because it falls apart, because it's fun. But yeah, feel free to pick us apart however ye wish. But I don't know, this game, I don't have it like fully baked out, but I wanted to do a little agree or disagree, Nick. And I want to set up some straw man arguments where I want some comps for our Yung-zeki picks, right? And I'm going to be a little hyperbolic, perhaps a little negative, because like I said, our picks are not going great. To summarize, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we had 5, and it was that we thought the guys who could potentially get Ozeki, who this year, not in general, but who would be getting Ozeki younger than the average age that someone gets Ozeki. We had Hakunofuji, Yoshinofuji, and Atamifuji, 3 Isegahama guys. We had Oho, the grandson of a great, and I shoehorned in Fujiryoga into the conversation there. But I want to take these young guys and some older guys that we should all be familiar with. So I was trying to limit myself and not take retired guys, but some of that might need to happen. But Yoshinofuji has been a ton of people's picks to get to Ozeki this year. And I think he's good, but I have been cooling on him lately because once he's gotten into this Joy Gene, it's been all these single-digit performances. Even though he got a Gino show in November of 2025, even though he got a Shikun show in January, because he's been beating the Yokozunas, right? Well, when they're wounded, so whatever that means. But it was 8-7 in January. So I was really having pause. And now 7-8 for him at Maegashira 1. And my pick for Yoshinofuji, for an older guy, I'm like, I think I'm looking at Takanosho's career, a guy who at 2 different times in his career, in his late 20s, has been the pundits in Japan picks to make Ozeki, and it has not happened. There was a year where he and Mitakeumi ended the November of the previous year, both at Sekiwake, and then Takanosho fell apart, whereas Mitakeumi got the Ozeki promotion. I'm thinking Yoshinofuji is a career Jun Yusho Sekiwake man. That's my comp, Takanosho. Agree or disagree, Nick?
Honestly, I kind of agree.
Well, we're negative. Give it to me, though. Give it to me.
Hate it.
Yeah.
The higher it's just, I don't know, man. He's young. He's only 24, but it's like, as he's gotten higher, it's like this. It's really hard up there.
It's hard.
And I think it is really difficult to predict. You can be like, oh my God, this person's gone 14-1 a bunch of times. But as soon as you get up there, it's really hard.
I know. That's the thing. And that's great. Sumo's good, but there is some level of parity, which is really damaging to some of these guys, right?
Yes. Where you're like, oh my God, you're the most amazing star in the world. That's like, oh, then it was crazy. The ridiculous, like the 2 Kimboshi in one tournament and then still going 8-7. Yep. That was a weird.
Dude, I know. And it matters when you can beat the top guys. But we've talked about this before. To get to those elite ranks, even we talked about with Kotoshoho. Here's a great thing to return to Kotoshoho and give him praise. Like, when he's fighting wrestlers who he should beat, not every time, but he is beating them for the most part. Whereas to go 7-8, you're losing to a lot of wrestlers you shouldn't be. You should be beating. You should not be losing to. You know?
Yeah, I mean, even Atamifuji, he spun, but he was at least for the most part going positive at this level.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, so that's Yoshinofuji, right? I want to move on to the next one just so we can do this a little more rapid fire. Unless, do you have any final arguments on Yoshinofuji?
I don't. He's a wait and see.
Yeah. All right. Not a great comp, but there was another comp I wanted to do for this instead, but I'm going to do something different. I'll explain to you in a second. But Hakunofuji, I'm now wondering, is his comp Meisei? Is he a guy who's shorter, very compact, very strong, good on Itachi, can smash in and do Yorikiris, um, but ultimately Meisei capped out at Sekiwake? Whether it's injuries, whether it's stable drama in the mental game, is Hakunofuji now a career Sekiwake guy who never makes Yokozuna? Agree or disagree? Or sorry, not
I
Yokozuna. Yeah, I'm not even talking about Yokozuna. I'm talking about Ozeki.
Oh,
Sorry,
no.
sorry. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I thought you said it too.
Yeah.
Man, even I think Sekiwake would be the most you could hope for.
Really? You're gonna agree with that? I was hoping so badly that you would disagree with me. Okay, give it to me.
No, I've looked at his history, and it's just not there. I mean, when everyone was super pumped when he came in, just murdering, but once he hit that shoulder injury, it just really stopped.
And it might be that thing has only just now gotten healed, but now we're talking about potential torn ligaments in his knee was the report before the basho. Mid basho, there were some reports from Nikon about potential big toe injury. Again, I'll work with Phil and try to confirm those from whatever outlets I can. But yeah, that stuff's problematic, and that'll mess up a career. And what's frustrating is I hinted at this before. The guy I wanted to be my comp for Hakunofuji was Asanoyama, because they both have similarly their strength. Like before Asanoyama's knee injuries, his strength, in my opinion, was the speed of his tachi. He always captured the center. He always kept his hips lower. He always hit the other guy first and in a more advantageous position so as to get armpit control, so as to get a favored grip on the mawashi, whatever he wanted to do. Asanoyama was doing that. So like that's the sumo I see from him. So what I wanted to say is the comp a guy like Asanoyama who can get to Ozeki, can win a Yusho in his career, but then it never quite happens again. He had a really good Ozeki run before the COVID restrictions sent him down, and then injuries simply because of age. We lost so many tournaments off of his career. So that's why I was like, I don't think that's a good comp, because the reason Asanoyama lost it was we might have seen more Yushos from him. I don't know. But I think that's maybe it's a conversation with Hakunofuji of, is Asanoyama the ceiling? And maybe he can go higher because Hakunofuji's not going to lose time. But maybe that's the deal. Maybe this Miyagino stable into Isegahama drama, and now Enho did get a Juryo promotion, so maybe Miyagino stable is going to get reformed within the next 6 to 12 months here. And maybe that turns around Hakunofuji's entire career. But is the way that Asanoyama lost a big chunk of his career to punishment from violating COVID protocols the same way that we're seeing these years of what should be Hakunofuji's prime robbed by not being in a stable where he's getting full access to practice time, when, again, some people would say that the quality of opponents he's practicing against in Isegahama should be better. But I'm like, I don't know, man. If he had been in Miyagino, he still was going to be practicing every day against Yoshinofuji, who we just talked about, against other top quality wrestlers. So I don't know. Before I pivot off of this, any thought on that of, is Asanoyama a better comp for him than Meisei would have been? Is Asanoyama the ceiling and Meisei the floor? Any thoughts on that, Nick?
It's tough. I have a hard time predicting this one because of when you're this young and it's the level of injuries, you're missing all these tournaments where I'm like, can you pull it? Can you pull it back? It's just not even like a performance thing. It's entirely just like your body's already so injured.
Yeah.
And he's had all the stable switches, and I'm like, what's the point where he's just gonna be like, I'm not gonna do this.
Right.
Because he's not like he's been invested in this for 10 years. He's only 22. Like, he has all these injuries. I'm like, I would lean towards that, him being like, you know what? We did this for a while and maybe it's just not working.
I frustratingly kind of feel the same way, that he's more likely to just retire if things don't get better. It's not even the injuries. It's that I'm worried he'll just leave, you know?
Yeah, and I wouldn't blame him for it. Like I said, it's like all the stable drama. It's like you're wrecking your body, and you're only 22.
Yeah.
And you might look at that. I think people are now more likely to look at that and be like, "Hey, maybe not."
I don't know, man. Let's move on. We got to move on. All right, one more. Oho. Is the comp for Oho Kotosakura. So Kotosakura has captured a Yusho, did have that 14-1. They both are these grandsons of Yokozunas. In fact, they were in the running in the tournament in January together for a little bit last year. But this idea where now Kotoshoho is going to be Kotosakura is going to be on the other side of 30 here for his career. So I think we kind of have seen what he is, and maybe there's some more here. But is Oho the kind of guy who can get higher than Sekiwake, which is his current career high? But is he the kind of guy who will capture Ozeki at the very end, capture a Yusho at the very end to kind of save face for his family, for the rank, but never achieve what his grandfather... I mean, Oho's definitely never going to achieve what his grandfather did. But like to at least get to Ozeki if he can't get to Yokozuna. Agree or disagree, Kotosakura is the comp for Oho, and you can disagree in the negative. You can say, I disagree because he's never going to do as much as Kotosakura did.
Oh, man, I'm so torn on him. I kind of disagree because it's like, I think he might be not quite... I don't know if he's going to get Ozeki.
I know. I think he might have already hit his peak.
I think he's going to fall a little short. I think the Sekiwake is going to be the high.
Yeah.
Which, again, you got to the top 2-3 ranks in the whole sport, but not even people in like the elder stock or like the actual like board have gotten that high.
Yep. I know. Sekiwake is still huge. Like, that matters, you know? Yeah. There are, Anything else to say about it other than like Oho's got all the physicals, but if he's gonna go 7 and 8 from Maegashira 3 in the Joijin, that's fine. He's still good. We talked about how hard all the matches are when you're up there. But at what point do I, one of the biggest Oho stands, need to shut my mouth and wait? Like with Kirishima, where I had to shut my mouth and stop picking him as my dark horse. And then finally he got it in his own time. At what point do I need to shut up and just watch Oho rather than hype Oho?
Never. First of all, this is coming from somebody I will hype Abi till the day I die.
I love it.
And second, you stopped hyping Kirishima, and then look what happened.
There you go. Love it. Okay, we've only got 2 more left here, but one of them, this is kind of a cheater's comp because I want to talk about both these guys, but Fujiryoga, my guy who was in Juryo, who I was like, hey, if you guys are looking for a spicy pick, if you're looking for who can make the run like Aonishiki did, it's Fujiryoga down here. But man, he had a disappointing climb up from Juryo rather than a dominant one, going 9 and 6 from Juryo 3, not even, because his Juryo 13 performance, 13 and 2 Juryo champion in November. I was like, this is it. This is a guy, he can go 13-2 again. But he didn't. He went 9 and 6 and got promoted. Whatever, he's at Maegashira 17. But then he goes 7 and 8. He might get spared there, right? He might get a tiny half-rank demotion. But is the comparison for Fujiryoga Gonoyama? And the reason I say this is a cheater is Gonoyama is still young. So this is not necessarily a guy who I can say is old guardy, but he's going to be 28 in a couple months here. So again, I wanted guys over 30 as comps, but are these two guys who are just inferior boulders? If Taka Keisho is the ideal boulder, just like all Tachi-ai, all Clash, Smash a Boy, then are the likes of Shimazumi, Bushozan, Gonoyama, and now Fujiryoga, are they just inferior boulders who are perhaps never even going to, like Gonoyama's peak has been Maegashira 2, Joijin. And we only this basho finally saw a true bounce back from him, 10 and 5, where he was in the running through 10 days of the tournament. Where we were talking about, if you look at a tournament in terms of thirds, he had a 4 and 1 third and a 5 and 0 third. So he's a guy that his style of sumo is so dominant that he can contend. However, the final third, days 11 through 15, 1 and 4. When he had to fight Kirishima, Kotosakura, Atamifuji, and then even Asakoryu and Takanosho on those last final days. Asakoryu and Takanosho, he went 1 and 1, but the other 3 guys 0 and 3. So is this a guy, Fujiryoga, who just cannot contend and will not contend with top contenders like what we've seen from Gonoyama?
I'd say it's probably fair. Like, it's hard for me to judge off of one Makuuchi, but it's nothing like, if you hadn't mentioned it to me, it's not anybody I would have paid attention to after this.
There you go. Yeah. And so this is me just like, another thing of Rick, time to eat crow. Like, one-dimensional. Me and you
might.
Yeah, me and you love one-dimensional wrestlers though, because we grew up on a heavy, stable diet of Abi. The thing is, his one dimension is so good. His one, you know what I mean? And these other guys maybe aren't it.
I think it still takes a special person to be able to do that one level, and then actually be able to pull it off and not have people not just see him like, okay, I know how to do this.
Right. I think so. So yeah, that's where I would place him. Now the last one, this is the one where we can still be positive. In my opinion, this is the only guy in our Yung-zeki sweepstakes that we opted for who I think is still live, and that is Atamifuji. However, he did go 9-6, but we've seen guys at Komusubi get blasted, and we saw Atamifuji at younger ages struggle in those Joijin. So in my opinion, him following up his Jun Yusho and his playoff loss to Aonishiki from January, where he got 12-3 Kotoshoho Jun Yusho, following that up with 9-6 at Komusubi, Shin Komusubi, Komusubi debut was great. His losses are okay, but sometimes a little weird, like Hoshoryu and Kirishima, especially in this basho, totally fine. Oho, I don't really want to see that loss on day 12. Day 15 to Takayasu, I don't know, that loss is fine until you consider that Takayasu was a little bit imploding near the end there, but that was Takayasu fighting to retain Sanyaku rank, whatever. But also losses to Fujinokawa and Hiradoumi, two undersized guys who just hit like trucks and push like mad. That worries me because of the reported arthritis he has in, I don't know, I'll have to look it up if it's in one hip or both hips, but he has hip arthritis, which from this young age is problematic, but he's so good. So this, I think, is me reaching. A guy I thought about making his comp was Shodai, but is Atamifuji's comp Mitakeyumi? A guy who had an incredibly promising career when he was younger, got to Ozeki late, but did ultimately end with 3 career Yushos, which we've seen how hard this is. Winning multiple Yusho at all is incredibly hard. So if Atamifuji ended his career where his career high was Ozeki, but he had 3 Yushos, and like then maybe finishes the back half of his career, like none of us are really enjoying watching the struggling Mitakeyumi. This goes to your conversation previously about the old guard would have forced these guys to retire rather than let them flounder around in those Magashiras. But Atamifuji, do you disagree? Is that an overreach saying he can compete with the heights of Mitakeyumi? Or do you agree? Is that a fair comp saying he can achieve that, but we might also then get the struggles on the back end?
I actually think that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about him as part of the Mitakeyumi comparison. That's an interesting one. Because I think I was like, Shodai, I'm like, yeah, maybe. I'm like, because Shodai did stay up there for a long time. And I'm like, ooh, maybe, where you just kind of like, you go up there, you flash real bright, and then you crash.
It's tough, right? And Mitakeyumi, a guy who I also think the reason for his late career struggles is weight related. We've seen his lower body power is gone, but I think that's still carrying the weight when he doesn't quite have the same hams, quads, calves that he used to. So Atamifuji, this is a different lower body concern, but hip injuries is a concern.
I mean, it's pretty important, like, when you start having those hip issues, because that was didn't that happen with Hoshoryu too, where he had to switch things up because he was starting to have hip issues?
I think so.
Am I crazy?
No, I think you're right, but I think, because I think that was when he was Sekiwake Ozeki, but he appears to have gotten through it, yeah.
Where it's like, I mean, when a lot of the sport, half of it revolves around that, and it's hard to pivot from there.
Well, and for anyone who's a rikishi from a judo background, it's a lot of hips. What they want is their hips to touch their opponents so they can get them with an uwate nage, so they can get them with shitete nage for a lot of those throws.
Yeah, I don't know. That one's interesting. I want to see him go higher, but I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Do you think he can be a Mitakeyumi, that he can make Ozeki and win multiple Yusho, or nah?
I'm kind of leaning towards no at this point.
Oh, it's a lot of painful negativity, which is fine. We want Ozeki and Yokozuna to be hard to get to. The chase matters. That's what I was trying to say about the Cody Rhodes thing. Cody Rhodes is a famous example, if any of y'all watch wrestling, but because his dad, Dusty Rhodes, the whole career, the whole point was the chase, that Dusty Rhodes never won the title. Go back, if you have a second, go watch my Takayasu video comparing Takayasu to Dusty Rhodes if you want to see how I feel on that. But yeah, so like the chase matters. We want these things to be hard to get to, but it still pains us when the guys we like, we're not sure if they can get it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. Where it's like each group, each generation is going to have this massive chunk of like really good people, but it's like only like 2 of them are actually going to get up there.
Yeah, I know, and that's good. Ultimately, I think that's good for the sport. But yeah, we talk about everyone who has a chance because it's the interesting storyline, but it's interesting because of how few guys can get there.
Yeah, it's like the people who can actually get past and live up to the hype. It's like, wonderful.
Yep.
It makes and it does. Maybe that's what makes it more fun.
Yes, and to put a bow on this, that's why I do want to end this and say I hope we haven't given him short shrift, because what Kirishima has done is incredibly impressive, incredibly inspiring, and I love it and can't wait to see him force his way into this conversation with our Kotozakura, Aonishiki, Hoshoryu, Onosato, whatever health level they are next basho. This basho was great. And I think Kirishima and that 11-0 run is, well, not 11, I know the 11 straight run, I should say, that brought him to 12-1, but that 11-0 run matters and is what's great about sumo. Nick, any final thoughts or words for you from March?
I don't think so, except get ready to see Abi come back, and I'm just going to put my head on the ground and pretend he's not potentially terribly injured.
More sandbagging. Abi just wants to be Maegashira 17, and then here comes your 14-1.
He just really wants that real meteoric rise.
Let's go, Abi! And that is where we shall end it. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you liked it, whatever, give us a like, or more importantly, like, share it with a friend. See if more people are interested. Over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, we do an audio-only podcast weekly if that interests you. But other than that, loved the basho. Thanks for listening, everybody. Nick, thank you for making time for us in your day. Other than that, talk to you soon.